Last night, the news broke that the family of George Floyd would be suing Kanye West for $250 million for claiming that George Floyd died from a fentanyl overdose on a podcast. The only problem for this family is that Kanye West was referring to a publicly available documentary by Candace Owens in the Daily Wire, which provides evidence to back up their claims that George Floyd did in fact die from a fentanyl overdose. Here's the latest news. We know the lawsuit was announced. Yahoo Entertainment reports George Floyd's daughter announces $250 million lawsuit against Kanye West. But I must say, bluster and BS. Because now what we're hearing is cease and desist. Is that all? A cease and desist? First of all, you can't defame the dead. They're dead. So Kanye West, he can't be sued by the family over saying something about George Floyd. They're trying to argue that his statements undermine their mission and thus there's damages there. So no surprise, a cease and desist letter comes first. Okay, fine. So Kanye goes, sure, bye. Nothing happens. I think it's a publicity stunt. But the big news here, my friends, is the rebuttal from the Daily Wire. CEO Jeremy Boring, as well as many of the personalities, posted clips showing evidence backing their claim it was actually fentanyl that killed George Floyd. The medical examiner actually testified that if George Floyd was sitting on his couch and died, he would have ruled it was caused by fentanyl. Now, in his report, he said it was police action complicating, drugs or whatever. And he said that heart disease, the drug overdose, were contributing factors to the police action. Now, I said the other day, I think that's fair. The reason why I say that is because it's an opinion of a medical examiner who is saying that, well, I should probably walk it back a little bit. I had forgotten or had not heard that he actually said that the drugs alone would have killed him, period. So it's almost like saying that George Floyd was on the verge of death and would have died. However, he died faster. That's probably the way to assess it. And actually, at this point, I think it's kind of a stretch for the medical examiner to say it was the police action if he actually, he literally did testify that George Floyd would have died from the fentanyl either way. So at what point is it then, okay, well, look, it's the opinion of the medical examiner. If he's laying it out that way, fine. And I say it's fair simply because you can look at what he said and draw your own conclusions, which is an opinion. And if you come to the opinion that George Floyd actually died because of the fentanyl overdose, I think it's a fair point. And based on what he said, it stands to reason that if George Floyd had not ingested fatal doses of that drug, he would not have died. And so I'll show you more evidence backing up what Kanye and the Daily Wire have already said. First, here's the news. CNN reports lawyers representing Roxy Washington, the mother of George Floyd's daughter, CNN, just say baby mama, okay, have drafted a cease and desist letter to Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, over comments he made claiming Floyd was killed by a fentanyl overdose. On the podcast Drink Champs, West claimed George Floyd was killed by a fentanyl overdose, despite a medical examiner's testimony that fentanyl was not the direct cause of Floyd's death, only a contributing factor when he died after being knelt on by a police officer. Attorneys at Witherspoon Law Group told CNN the comments were especially damaging to Gianna Floyd, George Floyd's daughter. Quote, she's a little girl that's been traumatized and is being re-traumatized by Kanye West. Full stop. Wrong. BS. Kanye West was simply citing the Daily Wire. Bye-bye. Let me tell you, my friends, I made this point last night. When corporate press lies about me, and they do, here's the game they play. You've got news organizations A, B, and C. News organization A writes fake story. Tim Pool does X. I then send a notification. This is fake news and you must take it down, which is a required first step. Typically, when you're going after defamation, you have to be reasonable. They then go, oh, gee, oh, golly me, whoopsie, we made a mistake here. And they take it down. And you say, good, right? No. News organization B runs the story verbatim. You then go to them and say, hey, that story's fake news. News organization A already took it down. They go, we're citing them. Sorry, have a nice day. News organization C then copies B. And then around and around we go. Good luck. You can't sue anyone. You go to news organization C and say, that's fake news. They'll say, we were operating in good faith. There's no actual malice. We read a news story from news organization B. News organization B says, hey, look, we were only referencing an NBC News report. Take it up with them. And they say, we already took it down. So when you go to court for defamation, the judge says, what do you want them to do? They already took it down. You say, okay, well, now the next organization is publishing false information. Well, they're not responsible for damages because there's no actual malice. Welcome to how the modern lie machine and smear merchants work. And I wouldn't be surprised to find out that many of these journalists collude this way on purpose. But I digress. As it pertains to Kanye West, you can't sue him because he watched the news. He comes out and says it. You got a problem? Take it up with the Daily Wire. But then you're going to have to litigate what they actually claimed. And they provided evidence. Here we go. They say as of Tuesday, the episode of Drink Champs appeared to okay, hold on. When CNN sat down with 6-year-old Gianna Floyd, are you kidding me? You're on behalf of an 8-year-old, it's just, you can't, the law is plain. Family members can't sue. The attorneys have indicated they intend to also file a lawsuit for harassment, misappropriation, defamation, and infliction of emotional distress. Oh, because Kanye West watched the news? Get out of here. CNN reached out to a representative of Ye. As of Tuesday, the episode of Drink Champs appeared to have been removed from YouTube and Revolt TV. However, quote, it still exists. That does not remove it from the universe, said Williams. Too little too late. The harm has been done to our client. A cease and desist letter provided to CNN was addressed to an attorney they believed was representing Ye. However, they told CNN they were informed his attorney was not actually affiliated with Ye in the matter. They're actively trying to make sure it's received, though they added there will be more pressure once the lawsuit is formally filed. Regarding a separate legal effort being explored by attorney Lee Merritt, who has represented the Floyd family in matters in the past, Williams told CNN the two legal have not been coordinating efforts. Merritt told, you know what? I'm just going to pause. This is dirty politics. It's a PR stunt, or it's just really stupid lawyers. No, I think the lawyers know full well they've got no ground here. But I tell you this, man. Let me tell you guys a story. Let me tell you guys a story before I show you exactly what the Daily Wire is showing in their videos, so you can understand the law. Muse, the band, they ripped off the concept of my music, Will of the People. Maybe you saw it, maybe you didn't. Maybe you're a fan of Muse, and because of that, you refuse to believe it. We created imagery. Artistic imagery in Will of the People. It was an orange sky with men in hoods throwing ropes over statues and pulling them down while chanting the will of the people, screaming, this is the will of the people. On my birthday, I'm not exaggerating, literally on my birthday, Muse published, it's about a year later, a live version, a live CGI, 3D, of men in hoodies under an orange sky throwing ropes and pulling down statues while chanting the will of the people. And a lot of people were like, you can't sue over any one of these things. Like, no, but quite literally, I had a bunch of lawyers being like, wow, they like ripped off the concept, in its entirety. And based on that, I had a bunch of lawyers saying outright, it looks like they did rip off the creative work. Obviously, I don't own the phrase will of the people. Obviously, I don't own statues. Obviously, I don't own statues being pulled down or people in hoodies or orange skies. But when you take all of those concepts and package them under, quote, will of the people, all of a sudden now you've got copyright infringement. And there's a reason why we explored a lawsuit and then didn't. And it's mainly because going to war over this stuff is extremely difficult, takes a long time, and ultimately, what do you get? And I just thought it wasn't worth it. It cost us a lot of money. It was very, very damaging. We had a whole concept album planned out. We ended up canceling because I don't have the money to go up against Warner. I think it's Warner. But you know what a bunch of lawyers did tell me? The first thing you get in a lawsuit like this is publicity. That's maybe the only reason you'd really do it. Because were you damaged? Well, yeah, of course. Is it plain as day? Maybe not completely, but when you look at it, a layman's going to be like, these look like basically the same thing. And I've even had other industry people and marketing people outraged, pissed off, because a lot of contracts, there's third parties involved in losing money on this. And it's really just, okay, what was said was maybe somebody who worked for Muse saw this and said, this is a great concept, and then pitched it to him, and Muse had no idea. Fair point. Either way, it caused us damage. It delayed our releases. Seriously, we had a song 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden, we're waiting. We're delayed again. It's really frustrating. But I decided not to do it. I don't want to play these games. Lawyers said you will get mad press. Everyone's going to write about it. Muse being sued or whatever. And I'm like, oh, whatever, man. Maybe it'll still happen because we're still looking at the damages, and it's not just that. It's, as I mentioned, other third parties are losing out on money because of this, and they're pissed off. So we'll see where that goes. But here's the point. The lawsuit, in my opinion, against Kanye West is because he's a high-profile individual, and it's going to give them virtue signal points. That's why they're doing it, because this is what Kanye West was referencing. I give you now a 2-minute clip posted by the co-CEO of Daily Wire, Jeremy Boring. He said George Floyd's family is apparently suing Kanye West for $250 million over his reaction to real Candace Owens' documentary, Greatest Lie Ever Sold. Here's what the film actually has to say about fentanyl and George Floyd's death.
They had to have the jury believe that it was a neck restraint, it was the knee on the neck, it was asphyxiation that killed George Floyd. However, there was a ton of evidence that George Floyd consumed a toxic, lethal cocktail of fentanyl and methamphetamine.
Did it appear that Mr. Floyd said, I ate too many drugs?
Yes, it did.
Let's put it in perspective. 3 grains of fentanyl on the head of a lead pencil, enough to kill you, enough to kill me. And so they had to continuously inculcate the public to believe that Derek Chauvin intentionally, premeditatedly murdered George Floyd, and drugs had absolutely nothing to do with it, as Lindsay and the toxicologist presented that awful testimony.
Well, I want to pause real quick. They didn't say that the drugs had nothing to do with it, but they were contributing factors. The reason why I said the other day that was fair is because the point they were making was that those things did not end George Floyd's life. What the medical examiner was saying was that those things put him in an extremely weakened state where he's having difficulty breathing. You add the knee to it. One way to put it would be, as I mentioned the other day, the straw that broke the camel's back. The camel can be walking very haggardly, but it's alive. And then you add that one last straw and then it goes down. And look, man, I know a lot of people want the narrative to be that fentanyl did kill him. And I do think it absolutely would have, even if the knee wasn't there. You've got to understand, if somebody is coughing and gagging and then you walk up and punch them in the chest and they die, yeah, they may have been about to die, but you get charged for it. Now, that doesn't really matter because ultimately it is an opinion to say it was actually the fentanyl who killed him, that killed him. And perhaps you can make that point. If there, you literally could make that point. If there is a camel with a ton of bricks on its back and it's struggling and it's in a weakened state and you add 1 grain of straw and then it dies, you can argue that a straw alone would never have killed him. It was, in fact, the other way around. My point is this. You can actually say fairly the fentanyl killed George Floyd and the straw that broke the camel, the knee on the back was a contributing factor. Because here's the question. As much as the medical examiner said that it was the knee that killed him and the fentanyl was a contributing factor, can you argue that the knee was the contributing factor? Can you say that actually without the knee, he would have died from a fentanyl overdose? Uh-oh, that's exactly what the medical examiner did say. Here we go.
Do you recall describing the level of fentanyl as a fatal level of fentanyl?
I recall describing it in other circumstances. It would be a fatal level, yes, in other circumstances. Had Mr. Floyd been home alone in his locked residence with no evidence of trauma, and the only autopsy finding was that fentanyl level, then yes, I would certify his death as due to fentanyl toxicity.
Okay, well, he would certify the death as due to fentanyl toxicity. If the medical examiner is saying this alone, if he was found dead, would have been the sole factor, then I would actually argue it is more fair to say the knee on the shoulder and neck is the actual contributing factor, and the cause of death was fentanyl. It goes on to say, because it's text, the police body cam footage also reveals George Floyd claimed that he could not breathe prior to being put on the ground. True facts.
I know I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Take a seat. I can't breathe. Here, come on out.
He's saying, I can't effing breathe. I can't effing breathe. And the video clearly shows he's not on the ground, nor in one of the shots, he's just leaning up against the car as they're trying to put him in. George Floyd resisted arrest, then said, put me on the ground, put me on the ground, put me on the ground. He said, I can't breathe before he was on the ground. And, ladies and gentlemen, a symptom of drug overdose, chest pain, difficulty breathing, cessation of breathing, or shallow breathing. George Floyd, man, I wish the dude didn't die. You hate to see it. But he was chewing on a speedball, fentanyl and meth. And they found it in the car. Agitation. I mean, all paranoia, confusion, disorientation, aggressive and violent behavior. All of these things are signs of a drug overdose. So blue fingers or lips, that's from what, not being able to breathe? You know, I read about that. I said, I asked someone, I could be wrong about this, but I was like, what actually causes an opioid overdose death? Overdose death. And it's cessation of breathing. That's right. When you take too many opiates, you stop breathing. So what happened here? George Floyd had a fatal level of drugs in his system. The medical examiner said, well, in any other circumstance, that would have been fatal. In any other circumstance? Why not this one? No, serious question. Let's play that back because I need you to hear this so we can have this conversation, all right? Here we go. Here's the medical examiner.
Do you recall describing the level of fentanyl as a fatal level of fentanyl?
I recall describing it in other circumstances. It would be a fatal level, yes, in other circumstances. Had Mr. Floyd been home alone in his locked residence with no evidence of trauma, and the only autopsy finding was that fentanyl level, then yes, I would certify his death as due to fentanyl toxicity.
Okay, well, it's the medical examiner's opinion that 11 nanograms per milliliter of fentanyl did not kill him, and only if they found him without trauma would they have assumed that did kill him, despite the fatal level being 3 nanograms per milliliter. I believe that you can hear George Floyd say, I ate too many drugs. What probably happened, in my opinion, is that when the police came up, Floyd panicked because he had serious drugs on him and he ate them, trying to avoid going to jail. And then it killed him. Now, I think everything that happened with the police, there's a contributing factor there. If they immediately called for a medic and got him Narcan or something, maybe they could have saved him. But he's resisting arrest. He's on drugs. He's fighting. They call for backup. And here's the craziest thing about the whole circumstance that I bring up all the time. The prosecution against against Derek Chauvin, the prosecution's own witness outright said Derek Chauvin was entitled to use more force than he already had used. In fact, they said when he walked up, seeing George Floyd resisting, he could have immediately pulled his taser and electrocuted the man. But Derek Chauvin chose to use lesser force. It's all lies, man. I think the Daily Wire is correct. I think they've presented evidence proving that. And you know what? You want to sue over it? Good luck. Now listen, here's the real issue. Lawfare. The Alex Jones precedent. They'll just argue default against you. They won't give you a chance to defend yourself. And that's it. And then they'll say you got to give us money. The system is completely broken. It is broken. That's why I keep saying civil war. People don't realize we are watching this conflict escalate to a point where the law is gone. $1 billion because 10 years ago, Alex Jones made stupid comments that were opinions based on involuntary public figures. I don't like what he said. I think Alex Jones did very wrong, but $1 billion destroying his life and his company, this is insane. Look, I think you should be able to sue for defamation. I think people shouldn't be able to lie and cause damages to people, but as a deterrent and compensatory damages, not to destroy their lives and company. You know, these news organizations that have sued me, I don't advocate for them to be obliterated based on those single lies. I think they're irredeemable institutions, but I think they should compensate me for the damages they caused plus punitive damages. But I think they should keep functioning, burning it all to the ground. And now we have the story of that guy. What's his name? Danchenko? Not guilty on all counts. And the media is saying, wow, the Durham investigation sure is embarrassing. Federal prosecutors never lose this much. Doy, have you realized something? Federal prosecutors have tremendously high success rates in prosecutions. But the tainted D.C. jury pool, it's all hyper-partisan. We hate Trump, therefore, we're going to nullify. So how do we deal with no justice? I don't know. I don't have the answers. I can tell you this, man. You speak out against them, they will use this machine to come after you. What they're realizing now is that people like Alex Jones, he has wealth. He's dangerous. People like Kanye West, he has wealth. He's dangerous. They need to use whatever mechanism they can against him. But I would say that the judgment against Alex Jones is unjust. It is wrong. It is a corruption of our judicial system to an extreme degree. And something must be done about it. Now, I say this, for the time being, we have an opportunity to elect a bunch of MAGA Republicans. And once they get in, the tide may shift. Now, not all Republicans are good, but hey, you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, you got the Carrie Lakes. This could get interesting. Thomas Massey, we might actually see pushback and laws passed and some real enforcement. Maybe. That's where we need to go for now. But you know what? Here's what I say. I think Kanye's right. I think the Daily Wire has presented their evidence, and it looks like outright, the amount of fentanyl in George Floyd's system was enough. You know what? I'm going to say this. No. The medical examiner is correct when he said that, you know, it looks like in any other circumstance that would have been fatal. So I think what he's saying is, his statement says this: the knee on the neck and back of George Floyd was a contributing factor to his drug overdose. It's right there. How you conclude otherwise? I don't know. You fear rioters coming and smashing up your windows and killing your family or dogs or something? I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.